The best way to learn about media queries, especially the difference between max width and min width, is to play around with it. So you're looking at the web page that we will be using. Let's take a look at the code. I am using the Komodo editor, and I am on the page that is demonstrating the max width. First of all, we have our HTML doc type. There's our character set encoding, our title, and now here's our viewport, our meta name equals viewport tag. I am using embedded styles. It's easier to teach that way. Now notice I have a body selector and a rule applied, and an H1 selector and a rule applied. These will apply to everyone, all devices. These are just general styles, and unless they are overridden, they will apply everywhere. Now the concepts, the CSS concepts of inheritance apply, and cascade apply here. So in other words, styles cascade, styles inherit, and in the event of a conflict, the closest rule applies. And media queries are no different. If they're not written correctly, you could have some kind of a cascade going on, and you may not get the results you want. All right, so here we have our @media directive only, screen, and we're looking with maximum width, setting it to 960. Maximum width is saying it is less than or equal to. All right, the maximum width. So essentially it's going to scale down. Now if we don't have any other media queries written, then it will apply to everything 960 and under. And notice the @media directive, and here is the criteria. Here is our opening delimiter and our closing delimiter. These are the style rules. Notice we have multiple sets of curly braces, and it's important to make sure that you have your ending curly braces in the right places. So these are for the media query, and then you will have multiple sets of curly braces for your different selectors. All right, we have another media query, and this is for the maximum width being 768. So the minute the screen size changes to 768 or less, this rule will apply. And what we're doing is we're overriding the background color. Background colors work very nicely to see the changes. All right, another media query for 550, and our final media query for 320. Usually you have 3 or 4 media queries, and that seems to be enough to take into consideration the various ranges of devices. All right, so let's take a look in the browser and notice that the gray background is here. That's our default, because our first media query breakpoint. Now remember, these things are called breakpoints, where we're setting it at. The breakpoint is the point at which essentially the layout changes or the media query takes effect. However, our text decoration is going to stay there because that was applied all across the board. The background color will change because we are overriding it in the media queries, so we have a conflict and the closest rule applies. As I scale my browser, when I get to 960, and you can use tools to actually show you your widths. All right, now, okay, the maximum width 960 is red. All right, so anything 960 or under will take effect until we come to the next breakpoint, which is 768. At that point, our background color is orange. So anything 768 or under will be orange. So here, if I scale down one more time, now we're yellow. Okay, that's our third breakpoint. Anything under 550. And our final breakpoint at 320 pixels will be green. Take a look at our code. And supposing I moved this up. This is my max width 550. Supposing I move that up on top of my 960. Remember, the browser reads from the top down. So what's going to happen is that we'll see. All right, so 550 is yellow. All right, here's red, 960. There's orange, 768. Now remember, 550 was on top of it. Okay, we're orange. And now we're going to go all the way down to green. So what happened is the browser skipped over that 550 breakpoint. Now we're back to red, which is 960. Now we're back to gray. All right, so here's 960, which is red. Now we're going to go down to 768, which is orange. We're going to skip over the yellow. The point I want to make is that these breakpoints need to go in a logical order. You can't just take them out of order because it may not read that max width unless it actually that device is there. So they have to go in descending order. When you're working with max width, let me put it back where it belongs. You want to write your breakpoints. So here's our first breakpoint, 960, our second one here, our third one here, our fourth one here. Okay, they have to go in the descending logical order. It just works better. All right, now let's look at minimum width. And I'm using the exact same content, only I have changed the word max to min. So let's take a look in our browser. And notice, here we're starting with 960. Minimum width. Minimum width means it's greater than or equal to. So if it's greater than or equal to 960, in other words, 960 and up, not 960 and down. This is going to be 768 and up, 550 and up, 320 and up. All right. Okay. We're starting out and it's green. Well, green is 320 and up. And it's like, yeah, well, it should be red because it's at least 960. And if I go down, it's not going to change. All right, any guesses why? It has to do with the order of our style sheets. For max width, you want to go in descending order. Remember, the browser reads from the top down, and even though it's reading this, the last thing it read was minimum width of 320. That means it's at least 320 or higher, and when the screen opens, I'm probably at 1200 pixels across, and yeah, that's 320 or higher, and therefore it's applying my last media query. So the opposite applies for min width. When you're working with min width, you need to have the directives in descending order, not ascending. So we want 320 first. We want 550 next. We want 768, and then we want our 960. All right. So here we set, if it's 320 or higher, the background will be green. If it's 550 or higher, it will be yellow. 768 or higher, orange. 960 or higher, red. So now let's take a look, and we'll reload. Now it's red. And actually, it's never going to turn, it will actually never turn gray, because even though gray is set for our body, okay, our last media query says 960 or higher. So after 960, it's never going to see gray. It's always going to be red. All right, so let's go back and take a look. All right, so now when we hit a break point, it will scale down. Now it's orange. All right. Now at 550, it's yellow. And at 320, it's green. All right. So between, essentially what we're saying is between, let's go back to the code. We're saying between 320 and 550, it will be green. Minimum width of 320. So it's going to be, the browser, the screen, will be, everybody is a minimum width of 320. If I were to actually just comment all these out, and let's go down here, and we'll comment these. So right now I only have one media query, and it's a minimum width of 320, and I have a background color green. Let's just change this to purple so that you know that I've changed it, and I save it, and I reload. It will always be purple forever, because the smallest size device is going to be 320. So if that was our only breakpoint, that's what it would do. And by the way, this should say scale up, not scale down. I forgot to change it. Now, if I remove the comment from my second media query, and I have a minimum width of 550, this is the breakpoint at which the background color will now become yellow. So if I save this, and I reload, there we go. So between 320 and 550, we're going to be purple. And at this point, we're going to be yellow. And because there are no other breakpoints set, it will be yellow forever until it hits the next breakpoint. You will find that, in my opinion, most developers use min-width. I think min-width is easier to work with scaling up because it allows you to actually develop for the least common denominator, and everyone will inherit these styles. Technically, you don't need general styles because everybody is going to be 320 or higher. And then by setting your other breakpoints, you can start modifying those styles. And this is more along the lines of the mobile first approach, which is a philosophy in developing. However, if you already have a legacy website and you're redesigning it, then you're not starting from scratch, so then you can't really use the mobile first approach. However, you still can use min-width.